In the world where everything undergoing evolutionary development, there's one single game series that's still prominent as the #1 doujin content even after 25 years of its life. Touhou Project, also simply known as Touhou, is a bullet hell shoot-'em-up video game series created by one-man army. A guy called Ota Junya, aka Zun, all with capital letters by the way. Team Shanghai Alice, as it is called even though there is only one person in the team, has single-handedly programming a game, creating music, designing graphics, writing a story, and even self-publishing a total of 18 mainline games as well as many spin-offs as of today, August 2022. Not including the print works and music albums that also being produced by this solo warrior of a developer. As of the making of this video, Touhou series has undergoing the blood and tears for 25 years. That's not a short journey for a game series. In fact, Touhou is still notable as a prominent doujin content in the Japanese comic. But what makes this series still holding the #1 most doujins in the world? One of the most known factor is how little restriction placed by Zun himself on the use of his content. While the main game itself is not so intriguing with the normies, Touhou has tons of fan-made works, especially artworks, musics, print works, video games, and mostly internet memes. Unofficial works are frequently sold at fan conventions, including the Comiket, where the franchise has frequently held the records for the amount of participated circles. Not to mention, the series has an official convention called Reitaisai. As a result, Touhou has gained somewhat of a cult following outside Japan, which is still kinda weird even for me, as a Touhou fan for years. The first ever Touhou game was released in the 15th of August 1997, with the title of Touhou Reiden, or Highly Responsive to Prayers. It was released for the platform NEC PC9800, or PC98 for short, a type of Japanese 16-bit or 32-bit personal computers. The game marking the first appearance of the main character, Reimu Hakure, a shrine maiden of the Hakure Shrine. Reimu was originally has purple hair, and not being known as the Flying Shrine Maiden yet. Instead of a shoot-'em-up game, the first game is a block breaker type of game, similar to an arcade game called Arcanoid, using her purification rod and amulets Reimu directing a yin-yang ore to destroy blocks and damage enemies. According to Zun himself, only 30 copies of these games were sold at that time, meaning that even a popular doujin series like Touhou has its rough start in the very beginning. The second game in the series, Touhou Fumaroku, or Story of Eastern Wonderland, is the actual first shoot-'em-up Touhou game. Zun has cited the 1994 shoot-'em-up game Darius Garden as an influence of this game. This game also marked the first appearance of the second main character, Marisa Kirisame. While in the third game, Touhou Yumejiku, or the Phantasmagoria of Dim Dream, is the first and one of the only 2 versus type scrolling shooter games in the series. From Touhou 1 to Touhou 3, there is not a single mention of the word Gensokyo, which is the main setting of Touhou Games. The first mention of the name Gensokyo is in the 4th series of the game, Touhou Lotus Land Story, or in Japanese title known as Touhou Gensokyo. Yes, that's the literal official name of the game. The word Gensokyo is in the title itself. Touhou 4 is the first game that introduces us to the grace counter for near misses, the mechanics that will be used as the standard of the future games. The Touhou PC98 era will close with the release of Touhou Kaikidan, or Mystic Squares, as the 5th game on the franchise. Zun was graduated from the university, marking the beginning of the blank era of Touhou from 1998 to 2001. In this era, Zun worked as a game developer in the Taito Corporations and also helping with the other doujin circles called the Amusement Makers. In 2001, he decided to focus on developing games for Microsoft Windows system, forming a one-man doujin circle known to this day as Team Shanghai Alice. thus starting what we called as the Windows era. The sixth game of the series, Touhou Komakio, or the embodiment of Scarlet Devil, was released on August 2002. Yes, 20 years ago as the making of this video. Touhou 6 introduces us to the spell card system, which is gonna be the standard for every single games in the future. Touhou 6 was not only the first ever Windows Touhou game, but also notable as the most legendary Touhou games in the existence, with the game introducing us to the internet meme culture that later being popular among the series fans. Also, the other example of legendary games are also the next two games, Touhou Yoyomu and Touhou Eiyasho, also known as Perfect Cherry Blossoms and Imperishable Night respectively. Together with the embodiment of Scarlet Devil, the three earlier games also become the most well-known games in the series. From here on, Touhou Games has become a staple for every comiket in Japan until these days. In 2022, Touhou will release the 18.5 installation of the series called Touhou 100th Black Market. The name is a commemoration of the 100th comiket event in Japan, an event that has been running for 46 years. This is also marking as the 25 years of Touhou series and 20 years since the Touhou 6 release. This comiket also the second comiket that being held after the COVID-19 pandemic. Many derivative works based on Touhou have been created since the release of Embodiment of Scarlet Devil, including doujinshi, doujin music, doujin anime, and doujin games, which makes Touhou Doujin is a doujin inside a doujin. The vast scope of Touhou Project derivative prompted commentary, noting that Touhou Project became an unmissable aspect of Japanese consumer-generated media. These doujin activities are mostly responsible for adding original attributes to the characters that Zun may not have intended. Zun for the most part has acknowledged, appreciated, and even encouraged these derivative works by imposing very few restrictions on the use of his works. The only major restrictions are on authorized commercial distribution and the spoiling of endings of the games. The reason why Touhou never have an official animations or big company games are because of Zun's principle himself. Zun stated himself that he did not want Touhou Project's game to be officially commercialized. However, by recent years, Zun released the newer games on platform Steam and also officially recognized some fan games like Touhou Spell Bubble and of course the most controversial one, Touhou Lost Word. If you like this kind of video, please give it a thumbs up and leave a comment below. I would like to make more of these high quality contents instead. And thank you so much for watching. See you again in the next video.